Good afternoon to each one of you. Welcome to the special lecture on terrorism, technology, media, and fake news by Dr. Tal Pavel from Israel. Uh, Dr. Tal Pavel is the head of cybersecurity studies in the Information Systems School at the Academic College of Tel Aviv, FO, and the founder and director of the private-owned Institute for Cyber Policy Studies. Dr. Pavel is an academic lecturer, researcher, and speaker, specializes in cyber threats and cyber policy. Has served as a keynote speaker at international conferences and has also been interviewed as an expert, as a cyber expert for major media outlets. Dr. Pavel holds a PhD in the Middle Eastern Studies from Bar-Ilan University, Israel, and his dissertation title was Changes in Governmental Restrictions over the Use of Internet in Syria, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates between the years 2002 to 2005. He's also associated with a lot of other very important institutions as well. And Dr. Pavel was introduced to me by Dr. Vignesh Ram, who's also part of the Covins, where Dr. Pavel has a complete module that he's been giving on the cybersecurity component. Dr. Tal, we are extremely happy to have you here to deliver this lecture to the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations. Just for your information, Department of Geopolitics and International started as a teaching department in 2010. And since then, we have been researching on issues that are of national importance, particularly looking at national security, nuclear policy, cyber, and many other things, including the latest ones that are associated with terrorism, Indo-Pacific, environmental security, maritime security, several components. And our students today are students from the master's, first year master's in their course called Counterterrorism Economics. And we also have others who have joined. We have got PhD scholars and few more scholars have also joined, apart from my colleagues who are here. So without wasting much time, now the floor is yours, and probably you can speak for 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will have a question and answer session with the students. Thank you.
Thank you, pardon. Thank you, Dr. Kishore. Thank you for the invitation for this lecture, the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Thank you, all the students and professors, all the participants. It's my real pleasure and honor to have this invitation to speak a bit about terrorism and technology. As Professor Kishore said, it's a wide topic, and I have a full course at the academic institution about several aspects of those topics of the relation. Of those topics. What I will do, I will cover a few aspects of topic of, let's call it, when terrorism meet technology. And when I speak about terrorism meet technology, it's the cyberspace, social networks, even Bitcoin, encryption softwares, and so on and so forth. Of course, fake news and perhaps in the future. We will try to cover those topics as much as we will be able, according to our time schedule. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, marvelous. So, We'll speak about terrorism, technology, media, and fake news. As I mentioned, when terrorism meets technology or the cyberspace. Most of the examples will be about the Islamic State. I don't know if you know this flag, but this is the flag of the Islamic State, and below at the lower part, it's written in Arabic calligraphy the Islamic State, the Khilafah of the Islamic State. I call it cyber jihad because it's not an ordinary cyber terrorism. It's how you use the internet in order to perform physical terrorism. I mean, cyber terrorism can be the ability of terrorist organization to perform cyber attacks. But here, I mean two different things. How can terrorist organizations use the online platform, the online abilities, in order to perform not cyber attacks, not leak of information, but how to perform ordinary, traditional, physical terrorist attacks. Life cycle. And the life cycle is an ongoing one, round and round. The call, you need to spread your message. There is an ideology that you want to spread it, or you want to promote the ideology. There is mobilization, and mobilization here can be of followers, activists, supporters, but it can be also funding, training, training of let's call it terrorist or semi-military activities, how to perform terrorist attack. Communication, safe communication, online communication, encrypted communication, intelligence gathering, the terrorist attack itself, and then of course the documentation of the terrorist attack, and to upload it to the website in order to spread the message, the call. It's an ongoing life cycle. By the way, I realized that nowadays, the only part that you need to do it by yourself, not by yourself, pardon, physically, is this one, the terrorist attack. Because all the other parts, all the other steps can be done by the social media, by the internet, by digital means, by cellular phones. All of those, training, mobilization, communication, intelligence, ideology, the call, and of course documentation of the terrorist attack and spread the message to the social networks. So the only step that need actual physical presence is the terrorist attack itself. I'll give you some examples. Spreading the call. This is a poster of the Islamic State. I think it's after the attack in Belgium, Malbec, I think the name is written there, and it's written here in Arabic and in French. An eye for an eye. Here in Arabic, here in French, an eye for an eye. And you can see here and what is to come will be more devastating and bitter. Such posters. You can see here, I look at from history. Terrorist organization knew how to spread the message. It's 2008. 2008, they made kind of a set of multimedia with CD that gathered all the activities during 2008. So what you can understand from that is that terrorist organization knows for pretty long time how to use the technology and they absorb technology and how to use it for their malicious purposes of physical terrorist attack. You can see here Global Islamic Media Front. This is the media front of Islamic State, and here you see also a Barak Media Organization. So from those two banners, you can understand and you can see the ability and the understanding of terrorist organization, of the importance of media. You know, we think of terrorist organization as something that is clandestine, go beneath, secretly. But here we have two examples of two banners of as examples of terrorist organizations that have media organizations. You can see here as well banners of that belongs to a terrorist organization from Iraq from a decade ago. It's from their websites, several websites, and it reflects us the knowledge that they know how to use the digital media, the social networks and websites to spread the message. Ideological guidance, this is just an example. It was a Facebook account that was orchestrated by the Islamic State, or allegedly by Islamic State. And the essence was, as you can see here, Islamic State scholars. So one followers or participant could that has some questions, some religious questions, could send those questions to the scholar of the Islamic State, which means the ability to use the platform of, in this case, Facebook, in order to spread the ideology, spread the message of Islamic State. There were clips of the leaders. In this case, it's Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, who was the spiritual leader of Hamas here in Israel, Palestinian territory, and this is he's speaking Arabic. The subtitles here in Hebrew. By the way, the Hamas made this subtitle in Hebrew, and here he said that words of encouraging to Hamas followers and promoting them. Another step in the life cycle of terrorist organization is mobilization, and we can see that mobilization is by technological means. You can see here, you know, it's almost something years ago, Islamic State recruit militants, or trying to recruit them using Viber. Okay, here you can see the FBI director said that maybe thousands recruited by Islamic State, by ISIS in the US. How do they do it? As you can see, officials said ISIS recruitment efforts involve an unprecedented level of sophisticated in its social media outreach, using Twitter and Facebook and other social media platforms. So they knew how to use social media and the latest technology for their malicious purposes. Another aspect of mobilization, as I mentioned earlier, is funding. After the attack in Paris, in Bataclan by Islamic State, there were rumors or allegations that the attacker had a wallet, a Bitcoin wallet of $3 million. Is it real? I don't know. What can they do with a wallet of Bitcoin wallet of $3 million? Can they exchange it into physical one? It's a very important question. But it's a claim that the attackers in one of the most notorious attacks by Islamic State had a wallet of $3 million in Bitcoins. It's very interesting. It's a claim that Islamic State know to use and used Bitcoin. Well, Islamic State, they are not alone. Here you can see a poster made by Hamas, written in Arabic. Pardon. I will translate it to you. And here they said that it's a message by the Katab al-Shahid Sadil Qassam, which is the military wing of Hamas, that they start to receive your support, your financial support to the resistance by the Bitcoin. How you can do it? You can send to this address the specific and official address, and this is the address of the wallet of Hamas in Bitcoin, of course. So here is another example. We can see that perhaps just public relations. I don't know if it was factional, and I don't know whether they were able to raise funds and how much, but at least they expose here the knowledge and the willingness to be part of this game and to also raise money using the cryptocurrencies, and in this case, Bitcoin. You can see another range of the dark web, the dark net, the activity of terrorist organization in the dark net. Islamic State is trying, or someone pretending to be it, is trying to raise funds using Bitcoins. Here as well, the ability of, here it's the Islamic State to raise funds using Bitcoins and the darknet. It came to a point in which there was a kind of religious decree. The author mentioned that Bitcoin and the charity of violent physical struggle, that you can, instead of give money to charity, you can give money to violent physical struggle, as written here, and in Bitcoin, and this will be your charity. So something like a religious explanation, religious decree. But the question is Islamic State using Bitcoin? Well, as written here, it's the last thing we should worry about. Why? Because as I mentioned earlier, we do not know whether they use it. A. B. Even if they had a Bitcoin wallet, how much did they have in those Bitcoin wallets, and did they actually manage to buy things, to use those wallets actively? And unfortunately, they had some others malicious and vicious online means to raise funds and to fund their the malicious activities. And one of the most vicious and crucial one is the fact that, at least according to this article, Islamic State are trading thousands of women using social media apps. And according to this article, it's written to this message in Arabic. It's written that that feminine, she's a beauty, her age is 12 years old, and can see here, it's for me it's devastating. It's horrible. Another ability of online criminal activities or online activities of funding is using the relationship between terrorist and criminal activities. I mean, we saw several aspects of how can terrorist organization can fund the physical terrorist activities. Whether it's a trade on WhatsApp or Bitcoin, but another possibility, another option is by the connection between crime and terror. And a good example for that is the case of Boko Haram in Nigeria, which the claim is that they were able to fund the activity using what is called the Nigerian sting. Nigerian sting is an ongoing for let's say, I think something like 2-3 decades of fraud. It started with letters and fax messages, even before the emails, in which the victim received a message in which he is announced that he received a sum of some million of dollars from his relative in Africa, or from a Nigerian minister that passed away, and he wants to transfer all his money outside, and he wants your bank account for that. This is a Nigerian sting. And the claim here is that both organizations or both type of malicious activities, crime and terror, were able to do things together. That the criminal activities funded the terrorist activity of Boko Haram. Another possibility or ability to fund is by campaigns. Here you can see campaigns of a campaign, a poster, a banner of please support us. This is how much cost every rifle or a sniper or machine gun. So please support us. Okay. This is about mobilization and funding. The next step is operational training. And operational training can be in several means and aspects, like in online platforms. If you know Second Life, okay, and the avatars. This is a screenshot that I've made from Second Life, and here is my avatar, and I'm here at the holiest places for Muslim in Mecca, in Saudi Arabia. And here I was able to visit the place using my avatar, even though at an ordinary time for me, as an Israeli, currently there is not any situation in which I can be there physically. But using this platform of Second Life, I can be there, I can visit the place, I can hover about it, so I can use it, or not me of course, but it can be a platform for intelligence gathering, for operational guidance, for to understand how things works for malicious purposes. Although it's innocent and positive platform that is supposed to be for fun and amusement, but perhaps games, online games, and such a platform like Second Life can be also for malicious purposes. Another thing is guides. And you can see here a Mujahid guide, the guide of the warrior, how to survive in the West. from 6 years ago. And you can see and you can read the chapters: hiding the extremist identity, breaking lines, earning money, internet privacy, as well training how to produce primitive weapons, how to produce modern weapons, bomb making, and so on and so forth. And it exists on the web. If I found it, everyone can find it with malicious purposes. And another thing is training how to tweet safely without giving out your location to the NSA. Once again, it's not from now. It's something like six and a half years ago. They created manuals and guides how to survive in the West, how to protect yourself and your safety, and even how to make a bomb in the kitchen of your mom. And it was very detailed by the AQ chef. AQ is the Al-Qaeda. And it's a very detailed demonstration, well, not demonstration, but a list of steps. How to make a bomb in the kitchen of your mom. This is from the magazine Inspire. Inspire was the magazine of Al-Qaeda in Arabian Peninsula, which means in Saudi Arabia region. You can see here also the hidden bomb, breaching airport security, making hidden bomb, field tactics, and even exclusive interview with Al-Qaeda chef. And he is chef that makes bombs. So once again, it's amazing, because when you think of terrorist organization, we think of something that below the surface. But here there is interview with Al-Qaeda chef that explains how to make a bomb in the kitchen of your mom. A bit about Inspire. You can see here it was a periodical with 14 issues, was published by Al-Qaeda, was well published magazine between the year of in something like 5.5 years, the beginning of 2010 to the end, almost the end of 2015. Another one, an interesting one, was The Big. The Big was a high quality magazine issued by the Islamic State. Probably in the same period of time, you can see here that the mid-14 by the till the end of till the beginning of 2016, something like a year and a half, 13 issues. So this magazine was published by the Islamic State. A very high-tech, very professional one. Another interesting was magazine in the German language, an interesting one, and it's called Cybernetic. The claim was that this is, as you can see here, this is the tweet about the inauguration of this magazine, new magazine, and it's written here that, as you can see, that ISIS launched Cyber War magazine for wannabe jihadist hacker, but someone from this magazine wrote, well, we are not ISIS, so who are they? It's interesting. What I can tell you is that you can see here Rabiul Jawal is in an Islamic name of month. And you can see here WhatsApp, Telegram, Asrar2 is name of software encryption that was used by the Islamic State. So it's a very interesting question, who stand behind this magazine that we know that have kind of Islamic orientation, and we know that was published during the time that The Big and Inspire were published, 2015. Another layer of training were video games, even for children. And there is nothing graphic here, but the title in Arabic say, in video, Daesh, which means Islamic State, launch electronic game to introduce kids with killings, with murder. So using computer games. The aspect of communication, it's interesting because here we have several layers. There is the communication, as we saw, of social networks, WhatsApp, with the supporters and followers, but there is also the communication aspects of, let's call it reporting from ground. Okay, I mean the activists that are now in the middle of the terrorist attack and that can report from ground. One of the known cases and examples were the case of Westgate shopping mall attack in Nairobi, Kenya. And you can see that it was an event that took something like 2.5 days, in which perpetrators from Somalia came and launched their attack and took control on this mall, and you can see the casualties. But the very interesting thing is that they tweet using Twitter account during the attack, tweeting terrorism, how Al-Shabaab live blogged the Nairobi attacks in this official account, official Twitter account of Al-Shabaab from Somalia. And you can see the tweets here and the headlines for that time. Nairobi shopping mall attack, Al-Shabaab Twitter account suspended after a period of time. And how can a booster of Kenyan mall chain carnage with live commentary as they murder dozens of people? And the problem is that Twitter, as written here in the second bullet, tried to shut down its account, only for others to spring up fast. And you can see the headline: Twitter in crossfire, the use of social media in the Westgate Mall terrorist attack in Kenya. Why? Because in this case, Twitter was a platform not to perform terrorist attack, but to document, to communicate, to inform, to show the horror from the field. Another interesting aspect of communication, also training, is online video game. In this case, PlayStation 4. Why? As you can see in the claim of the Belgian Minister of Home Affairs, he said that they found PlayStation 4 and they believe that they were used to communicate, to coordinate, and even to exercise themselves in shooting and killings. And it's easy in those online games to hide such terrorist and malicious activities because it's a platform of online games that by nature use language of violence, use language of activities of using guns, of shooting. So it's so easy on one hand to hide such malicious activities and planning, but on the other hand to do training. It's easy to hide, it's easy, but we can see that law enforcement try to have a presence in those online games. Another interesting aspect of online communication is very interesting applications. This is an application, I must admit, that I didn't know how. It's called Zillow, and Zillow transforms your cellular phone into PPT. Probably it's consume less bandwidth, less energy, I don't know, less exposed. So this is the channel of the Islamic State in Zillow, and I must admit that I didn't use this. Didn't know this this application, but Islamic State activist followers knew it, and use it. Ask anyone in the street, your friends and colleagues, do you know Zilla? Do you use it? Probably the answer in most cases will be, I don't know. But the Islamic State activists and followers and supporters use Zilla and use it. Another way is to use encryption. And you can see here the timeline of encryption softwares. In most cases, those encryption software, if not in all cases, were Arabic version of existing open source Western encryption software. In most cases, they took the platform of encryption software in the name of PGP. It's pretty good privacy. It's well known, something like 2-3 decades that exists. This was made privately in the US. This encryption software, I think it's an open source one. And what did they do? They just took this and made an Arabization of the user interface. They made a user interface in Arabic for their usage. For that purpose, they even created manuals or instructions how to use this, well, Arab software, which, as I mentioned, is based upon this Western encryption software, PGP. And the name is Asal Mujahideen. It's written here, the secret of the warrior, the secret of the Mujahideen. This is the name of that they gave to this software, encryption software. They use also Telegram, and you can see here banners of Islamic State that promote the Telegram channel and how to use and how to find and install and activate the Islamic State Telegram channel. And once again, I find it very kind of contradiction. Once again, you don't tend to see, to think of terrorist organization that will have Twitter account, Telegram account, WhatsApp. Okay. But here is 2 banners of promotion and instruction how to use the Twitter and the Telegram account, pardon, of Islamic State. And you can see it here in different languages. And they also had a technical office. This is a channel of the technical office of Islamic State. Thinking about the operation of handling Telegram account in all those languages. Okay. Hamas in Palestinian territories had also Telegram account. I know of something like 4 or 5 of them, 2, 3 in Arabic, 1 in English, and 1 even in Hebrew. I follow all of those Telegram account of the military wing of Hamas and Hamas themselves. It's written here in Arabic, the official channel of the Izzadin Qassam brigade, which is the military wing of Hamas. The interesting thing is that, as you can see here, something like 4.5 years ago, ISIS use of Telegram has definitively surpassed Twitter, which means 4.5 years ago, Islamic State used Telegram more than they used Twitter. It was more common. Once again, let's think about ourselves, our friends and colleagues. Do we use Telegram? Do we have an account in Telegram? How often do we use it? How often did we use Telegram 4.5 years ago? But this terrorist organization, Islamic State, not only that they use Telegram, but they use Telegram more wider than in Twitter. Telegram is the app of choice for ISIS member. Its use has definitely surpassed Twitter and other social media platforms. Another thing is creating applications. Yes, they created applications. It's in Arabic, but it's written here, as you can see, 4 years ago. Sorry, 7 years ago. They created an application of news from Islamic State, from the latest news from Syria and Iraq and Islamic State. That's what it's written here in Arabic. And it's an application that Islamic State launched 7 years ago and was available in Google Play. You were able in the past to download this application in Google Play until Google shut it down, of course. But I also create different kinds of applications by themselves and took from here, took from there, and created applications, mobile applications by themselves, and used some other as I mentioned, Google removed ISIS official app from Play Store. An interesting attempt by the Islamic State was to create their own Facebook. As you can see here, it's looked very familiar. It's looked just like Facebook, but it was called Khilafah. And you can see the flag of the Islamic State, but it's looked very like with the color and user interface of Facebook. They also created a browser plugin in order to push news by Amaq. Amaq was the news agency, the Islamic State news agency. So ISIS web browser plugin for 24/7 news update. Once again, thinking about this organization which produce web browser plugin in order to send you by push news update. Once again, by terrorist organization. And another version of version 2.0 of the news application. Once again, Amaq agency. Amaq was the news agency of Islamic State. Documentation. Terrorist organization knew and how to document, and they documented their activities and their martyrs. Those are just examples of posters of martyrs of Hamas. This in case someone wrote on his Facebook wall before he went out to make a terror attack in Israel. He wrote it on his Facebook account. They use infographics. Here it's in Arabic from Palestinian territories, but here it's in English by Islamic State, and you can see it was published by Amaq agency. Islamic State official news agency. And here it's I must admit that it's very informative there on the left side. Very informative, very clean, very respectful. But what you can see here is a summary list of deadly activities divided by dual operational vehicle or explosive event, by the method, or by the region, or by the target. But it's not activities that with benefit for the community. It's a malicious one. It's murderous activities. The last thing that I want to speak is about fake news. I'll give just a few examples of fake news made by those organizations. Here is an example from 2006. It's written here in English and the same in Arabic in the line above. Identity cards of soldiers that have been arrested in Gaza. And they released this photo. And you can see, pardon, here, this photo enlarged. And once again, this image supposed to be of ID cards of soldiers that have been arrested now in Gaza. When I saw this image, I asked them, in those cases, I asked my student whether they see something strange, but I'll save it for you and I'll give it the answer. Since this image is supposed to be ID cards, and this is a blood donor card of allegedly ID soldiers that have been arrested just now in Gaza, how it's possible that there is already 2 watermarks of AFP, which is the French national news agency, and Getty Images? How can it be? Well, it's supposed to be an image that was shot right now. How can it be that already they have 2 watermarks of one bank images and one of news agency? Well, I made one just thing. I searched it for in Google Images and I found it. It's a real one, it's an authentic one. But as was written below in Arabic, it was made a decade ago, or a decade earlier. It was not from 2016, but 2006. So it's not a fake. It's not a fake news in terms that the image is fake, but the news is fake, because the image itself is authentic. Nobody manipulated. The manipulation is on our mind, because they took a real image, a real photo from Google Images. They create no Photoshop manipulation, but they brought it into life, into a completely new event without no connection to the current situation. Okay, so this is an example of fake news without no Photoshop manipulation. Here you can see headlines with a claim that Palestinian claim that downing Israeli Apache over Gaza. Of course, it never happened. This is an interesting case. You can see, compare that contract. The picture on the left was taken no later than January 14, 2009, and you can see below the address of the photo, and you can see 2009, January 14, New York Times here, okay? But here it was published on November 15, 2012, as taken yesterday. Is it really the image? Yes. Is it real A catastrophe? Yes. Perhaps both images are from Gaza. I don't know. But what it is known that this image was not taken yesterday on November 15, 2009, 2012, 2012, yeah, because it was taken 3.5 years earlier. Another example is this one. This image you saw already. This image is of Israeli soldier that his body was kidnapped by Hamas several years ago, and his body is still by the hand of Hamas. They took his They took his image from his Facebook account, and they put on the left this image. And what you can think, what you can understand is we hold him in our hand. But you already saw that this one was from 2006. It's a fake one. And they published, just for your information, they published this image as a complex, both of them. They put it side by side in order you to think, to believe that we hold him live in our hand and this is his ID. We know, unfortunately, that yes, they hold him, but they hold his corpse. He died in action. He's missing in action. Same. This is his name in Hebrew, his name in Arabic, and military ID with this photo of allegedly taking. But unfortunately, this soldier, as I mentioned, died in action. So they didn't capture him alive. This is not an IDF, Israel Defense Force military. This is not IDF helmet. It's just a show. Okay? This is an example of fake news. Another one is the claim that Hamas shot down an Israeli jet airplane, a military one. Well, it's the MiG. Israel Air Force have no MiGs. We do not have such. You can see the little wings here. If I remember correctly, this was a crash after collision between two airplanes, Russian one, in an air show, if I remember correctly. I tried to find it, and as you can see here, there is also claim that Syria shot down Israeli fighter, Saudi jet fighter down by Yemeni. So what is it? Okay, Yemen shot down Saudi fighter or Syria shot down Israeli fighter? How easy is to create fake news? Just take one photo and you give it new completely live. How much time do we have, Dr. Kishore? Okay, I'll give just some more examples. Here is a tweet that was published in July 2014 with a link. The link was
Dr. Tal?
Yes, Dr. Kishore.
Maybe can we just wind it up in another 5 to 7 minutes so that we can have enough time for the Q&A?
No problem at all. 7 minutes, I'll finish.
Thank you.
This is you're welcome. This is a tweet that was published. You see here the logo of Anonymous and all those hashtags, all Israel, pray for Palestine, and so on and so forth. And with the link was published during one of the military operations in Gaza against Hamas. And there was a link here. The link brought to this article. But the problem is, as you can see here, it was published July 2014. and the article was January 2009, 5.5 years earlier. So if someone see the tweet, enter the link, see the article, how many of them will think of, by the way, it's an old article. It's a true one, but it's an old one. Okay, this I'll omit. It's an interesting one. Here it's interesting. It's very interesting because it's a poster of allegedly the Navy commander of frogmen of Hamas frog unit. It's written here in Arabic and in very broken Hebrew that we will come to you even if you don't know where, or something like that. And you can see that it's look like manipulated. Okay, you can see the ratio here of this person and the rock and the island here, and it's look like a very poor Photoshop. And when I gave this presentation in one of the occasions, someone told me, I know that image, I know that picture, and you will be surprised, all of you, because this is the real image. And you know who are they? They are the SEALs of Indian Navy. They are the Indian Navy commando. But someone at Hamas just took this image of the SEALs of the Indian Navy and just lazy Photoshop, poor Photoshop, and from now on, those guys, and they put the a logo of Hamas, and from this moment, those warriors are supposed to be the warrior of Hamas and not Indian SEALs. Interesting thing that I realized that fake news is also a matter of culture, of religions, of understanding the local culture. And if you don't know it, it's easy to manipulate you. I'll give you 2 examples. Here you can see a soldier, you can see his uniform, and you can see on the right wounded soldiers brought by a helicopter to hospital. And you can see here that perhaps he's crying or something. So someone out there from our cultural, our religious perspective, our regional knowledge will say this soldier is crying because of his wounded friends. But he's not crying, he is praying. He's in the middle of praying. And I can tell you exactly the right place in his prayer. Because I know, because I'm from here, from this cultural and religious perspective. Someone from the outside will interpret it as he's crying because of his friends were wounded or killed. But I know, I can tell you that he's not crying. He just, with full enthusiasm of the prayer. Another thing, this one. You can see those religious, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox teenagers, and they're standing here on a motor of air condition. This one hanging it, and they're all looking to the left, to this direction. And since I'm part of this cultural and religious environment, I can tell you that they're probably looking at ceremony, funeral, wedding, a rabbi, which being a Jewish cleric that came to the neighborhood or whatsoever. but it's written here below. That is what Hamas rockets are doing, which means they are running away. They are running away from the windows because they are frightened of Hamas rockets. One can ask himself, of course, whether this guy who is sitting with his leg crossed is looking like someone who's fleeing around, running away, or those who are standing here. They are just ultra-Orthodox teenagers that are looking at something. Few more examples. Here they published also, you can see here the logo of Hamas. Those two images of allegedly their mortar unit. One can ask himself, well, it's look very, very professional, like a military unit. It doesn't look like something that may belong. Everything is with plastics, everything is shining. You can see here a laptop. Everything is, clean and sophisticated. I don't think it's resemble activity of terrorist organization. You can see the shine on the new mortar shells. Another few example is this one. Here it's written, it was allegedly, it was published by Hamas. You can see here the logo of Hamas. It was published two years ago. You can see here the logo. Allegedly, you can see here a drone with an RPG launcher. Okay, this is an RPG launcher. So allegedly, Hamas now have drone that can launch RPG rockets. Why? Because we see this image with the logo of Hamas. And it's written here in Arabic, Qassam Brigade, Tal Pavel Qassam. But the truth is that it's indeed exists, but it was made by an Ukrainian firm. It was made by an Ukrainian firm. It's a true image, but it's not belong to Hamas. It's an Ukrainian firm that made this drone. The last example is what known as the Jordanian pilot that was allegedly buried in his cage, burned alive in his cage. There was a movie released, published by Islamic State, in which they present the Jordanian captured pilot that they allegedly burned him alive. This post analyzed the video and said, I promise you that Lieutenant El Kassasle, or that's what his name, the pilot, was not burned alive. Yes, they killed him, but all the fire and all the flame and all the smokes and everything was virtually made by a computer, what is called computer-generated imagery. As you can see here, the flames are computer-generated imagery, CGI, and he analyzed it. So this was my short and that's an intense lecture about when terrorism meet technology. I'm Tal Pavel, and it was my real pleasure and honor and privilege to be here with you at the Manipal Academic Higher Education Institution. Everyone that have any kinds of question, remarks, want to send me, want to share with me, you have my contact details here. Feel free to ask, to write me down, to drop an email of any relevant topic. or question or information or whatsoever, I will glad to answer you now and of course in all those online means. Thank you very much for your times and willingness.
Thank you, Dr. Tal. That was an excellent lecture with lot of insights, lot of case studies, lot of instances with pictorial, you say, exhibition of lot of material that's been used for the propaganda as well as the fake news. Now I would open up the floor for question and answer session. Those of you have questions, please do raise your hand. You can direct it to Dr. Pavel. Okay, I see. Tal, either you can take one question at a time, or you can collect 2-3 questions.
Yes, I saw that. I do hope that I pronounced the name correctly, and if I'm wrong, please forgive me. Mr. Daksh Sharma, and if I'm wrong, and please forgive me. Daksh Sharma, please.
Yeah. I will ask. Daksh, please go ahead and ask your questions to Dr. Tal.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your lecture. It was great and opened up a lot of insights for me. I have two questions to ask you. First one is, now considering how you've highlighted that the targets of these campaigns, whether they're posters or whatever messaging and documentations and do whatever, the target of those are vulnerable people. How serious are the threat that these vulnerable people are parts of organizations which might act as insiders or mole, and finally, let's say they might send out information to these terrorist organizations? Second of all, sir, to counteract the effects and the things that these terrorist organizations do online and on social media, you can say that the states are taking a more proactive stance of, let's say, banning some websites or keeping tabs on some Twitter accounts. How does a country or how does a state balance between this and censorship, or a little more totalitarian outlook in terms of overstepping its boundaries and indulging in a lot more censorship? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Sharma. Well, first of all, regarding let's call them perhaps lone wolves, there is always the problem of insiders, and I can refer you to also nowadays not only terrorist activities but also in the coronavirus era. In cyberspace, the threat of insiders is most crucial one, and one of current threats in coronavirus era is that there are insiders with motives. I mean, all those that perhaps still work in remote working model, but they cut the salary because they work now from home. So now they, on one hand, they work from home, they are working employees, but on the other hand, they have motivation to harm. They are insiders. Think about Edward Snowden, he's an insider. Bradley Manning is insider. Okay, informer, whistleblower. So yes, the insider is a very important and crucial point, either from terrorist perspectives or from a cyber point of view. And insider can be our neighbors. Insider they can be work in the same factory or insiders. It's a huge problem. Yeah. And regarding the second question about governmental's ability to block, you saw that when I covered the Twitter reaction to the Westgate Mall a massacre in Kenya. And the second bullet mentioned they closed one, but others appeared. So, and you can see that, you know, I brought you links to those guides and tutorials. Once it exists on the internet, it's easy to duplicate. It's easy to upload to other websites, whether it's guides or to duplicate accounts. And it's hard to close it, to shut it down. And I tell you something, first of all, even if you will shut down an account, someone will open dozens more in a split of a second. That's A. B, I can tell you from my own experience. I followed several years ago a Telegram account of Islamic State, and they had dozens of alternative Telegram accounts. And if you were out of one of them for just a few days or a week, you will not be able to find yourselves, because they always had alternative and backup a Telegram account, and they moved from one account to other account. So yes, Telegram and Twitter management blocked hundreds and thousands, but did they stop completely this activity? I told you, from my own experience, I'm now following at least 5 Telegram accounts of Hamas. So another question is, who should decide what to close, what to ban, what to enable? What's the difference between Islamic State and Hamas? Why Telegram suspended accounts of Islamic State by hundreds and by thousands, and until now, I'm following, as I mentioned, at least 5 accounts. So it's also a question of policy. Who decide and to shut down and to suspend account, and which account? Okay, it's a very important question. Okay, Mr. Sharma.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr.
Gargi, Ms. Gargi.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you,
Ms.
Professor.
Gargi.
That was an insightful lecture. I really learned a lot. So in your presentation, there was a fleeting mention of spycraft. I want to know how the CIA and NIA, or even the Mossad for that matter, uses it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ms. Gargi. You know, all we know is according to published information, to unclassified information, to media outlet. But as I brought in this headline, the claim is that all those organizations, law enforcement and intelligence organizations, have in this world another kind of presence in those online platforms, because they understood that as much as we are in those platforms for amusement, others are there as well for malicious purposes. So they need to, I will not say monitor, but to find those, you know, lone wolves, those suspicious messages, those activities that may reflect an intention to perform a terrorist attack. Okay. So according to media outlet, those law enforcement and intelligence agencies are actively there, but I can help you just in here. Is it fine?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, Shrikutan.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. It was a very insightful lecture.
Pleasure.
So I have 3 questions for you. So some of them are like some very general questions, but I am asking you as you're a cyber expert too. So first one is regarding, I want to know your opinion regarding how much the suppression of true news. So that this government's conducts as if US is bombing, in a sense, in Syria, or like say what happened in Iraq. How does the suppression of such true affect the proliferation of fake news? So how do you see the relation between those two? And secondly, people say that privacy is a myth. So how do you see it as a cyber expert? And for example, we hear about the encryption of Proton Mail, Signal, Trima, then Telegram. So and just being sent over platforms such as Android, Windows, and with the mobile phone. For example, mine is a Chinese made phone, so servers are in China. So is it really? Is there privacy really, or is it just a kind of manipulation by the intelligence or agencies like that? And third one is regarding the regulation that can be possible on dark or deep web. So can governments or agencies, cyber agencies, regulate the happenings on dark or deep net, and to what extent, sir? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Srikta. Well, I try to answer all the questions, and I hope I understand them all, and if not, please modify. The first question was about fake news with correlation to military activity, if I understood it correctly. And it is very interesting because if we look at the region here, the Israel, Middle East, whenever there is a military confrontation, there you can find fake news, and probably around the world as well. And in time of not say peace, but an ordinary daily life, there is no need to create fake news on daily basis. But when there is a confrontation, when there is a military operation whatsoever, I would remind you that something like 2 months ago, Israel faced several thousands of rockets from Gaza Strip. So in this case, yeah, you can find fake news, and from time to time it's interesting because you cannot find the origin of the fake. And I give you one example. Several years ago, I found a tweet published by Hamas of a close-up on 2 brothers dead, one hugging his brother, little brother. Awful one, heartbreaking one, devastating. Lot of sorrow. 2 young children dead, one hugging his brother, with the logo of Hamas, and it was written there that this is the consequence of Israeli bombardment. I searched this image on Google Images, and I found that a claim that these 2 are Syrians that killed by the Assad regime. Earlier claimed that there were Iraqis kids that they were backdating, and then that they were from Iraq and back also even back that they were from Saudi Arabia. So yes, they were dead, but who are they? I don't know up until now. So whenever there is a military operation, yeah, you can see a rise in fake news. Regarding privacy and manipulation of, if this is what you ask, of security agencies and law enforcement and intelligence agencies, probably there is. And there is an example that someone made manipulation. There is this something that, you know, I slip in my presentation that I omit. It's an example of a log of entering of reception into the emergency unit in a hospital in Gaza. And there are two parts. The second, it's written that there is a lady and her a little boy that arrived dead. And the upper one that said that there is also a man that arrived. So there is a manipulation that was made, because it can't be that both of them are true. Who made this manipulation? Hamas, the Israeli side, and I don't know, but someone made a manipulation. Perhaps say it's a secret agent activity, I don't know. But this is an example of fake and manipulation. In this case, I don't know by who. The last one was about pardon, whether states can.
It was regarding the regulation of states regulation on deep and dark web. Yes, sir. So how much it is possible?
Well, I have a totally different presentation about the darknet. It, on one hand, it's supposed to be anonymity, privacy. No one should know who you are, and to give you safe and secure environment. But on the other hand, we know that there were cyber criminals that were arrested after performing criminal activities on the dark net. So state act and arrest criminals on the dark net. One of the most known cases is the case of Silk Road. Silk Road is a site on the darknet that sell, among other, drugs. And there were several versions. It was founded in 2010 or 2012, by a guy named Ross Ulbricht. Although he managed this website using the dark, using all the activities of protecting himself and his identity, he was arrested by the federal authorities of the US, and he's sitting now behind bars. So is there any malicious activities in the darknet? Yes. Is there ability of uncover these activities? Yes, we know from the past and the present that there is ability to expose these activities on the dark.
Okay, Miss Aishwarya.
Pardon?
No, we have the next question.
Sorry, yeah, sorry.
So my question was partially addressed through Sri Kutan's question. Like, it was regarding the cyber fraud. Like, recently I had an instance where my friend, there was a case of cyber fraud there, and when consulted to the police station or the cyber department, they were like, there are multiple applications which are regarding changing conversion of number and addressing it to as a Google, like, social media head or something. So they cannot know who the person is, and it's really difficult to find. So if it's the case of the cyber fraud, then how these WhatsApp policies or social media policies are helping the government or any other institution for tackling this terrorism, or whether it helps counter terrorism. That was my question. What's the role of social
anyway,
media?
that's been, you say that's been answered already. I'll move on to Ms. Madhuvanti and then to Mr. John.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for the insightful lecture. Sir, you mentioned regarding the bitcoins in your lecture. So, my question is regarding that. Recently, El Salvador accepted bitcoins as its legal tender. So, what do you think? What is the viability of bitcoins being used in the terrorist financing, and what are the repercussions or complications it will add to the financial market?
Well, thank you for the question. The Bitcoin is a very problematic one. And as you mentioned, it was accepted as official currency recently. But on the other hand, we see that beside the positive usage of Bitcoin, there is also, it is used by criminals, by terrorists, mainly in the dark net, for selling weapons, ammunition, drugs, credit cards, and malicious services and goods and activities. And we see that, as I mentioned earlier, there is an ability to expose. We see that even though that it's supposed to give a total privacy and anonymity, there is ability to expose the perpetrators. So, besides its positive, or alongside its positive means and purposes, yeah, there are malicious usage on the Bitcoin. And the problem is not necessarily to regulate, because malicious actors don't need regulation. They act outside of regulation. But the problem is how to find, how to track the money, the root of the money, the root of the payment between the physical person and the online entity. How to create the correlation between of them. How to find to create the whole path of the payment transfer not between only two online entities, but between the physical entities, between the physical person. That's the main problem. And definitely when there is usage in Bitcoin for malicious activities, either for criminal or terrorist, the challenge is much more bigger. But we know that, as I mentioned, there are success even nowadays during the Corona. The Interpol had several raids, and it's very interesting.
Okay, we have one last question by Mr. John, and with that we will probably conclude. Mr. John, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for first of all researching so much and then choosing to share it with us. My question is kind of related to the previous ones, but I couldn't find a specific answer. When these terrorist organizations are presenting themselves so openly by giving web browser plugins and giving the APK files, Android apps, Google Play, why we are not properly able to track them up? Or is our technology too weak for this, or is there a political agenda behind it?
Thank you for the question, John. First of all, it's very interesting because as I mentioned earlier, it's not so easy to shut it down. I mean, you know that you can upload the tweet and then it can be retweeted. Or as we saw regarding the application, okay, Google Play shut down this Islamic State application, but nothing prevent Islamic State in this case to open a website or to publish this application, to offer this application in their own website, which means on one hand it's hard to shut down and to stop online activity, and we know that there will be always those that will promote and proliferate. But on the other hand, think about it, that perhaps there is a need and interest in this online activity, because when there is such an online activity, I know what is going on. And there is always this kind of dilemma, because if I shut down and terrorist forum, I can close it. But I know that eventually, sooner or later, probably sooner, it will have a new home in different server in different country. But in the meantime, the law enforcement, intelligence agency, or whatsoever, I'm already there with my avatar, with my fake identity. I am there, I know what's going on, I'm listening. So the question is, and it's a very important, crucial one, what to do? What is better? Better to shut down such websites, such operational forums, or to let it flow, let it live, and be able to be there undercover and to monitor the activity. So it's not an answer of black or white. What is better, to shut down or to let it or to let it live and to be there online. But as you can understand, law enforcement agencies monitor those activities, and whether they are terrorist organizations or lone wolves, try to find lone wolves. There are also those lone wolves of the extreme right in the West. Those who are motivated by white supremacy, they are white supremacy lone wolves, right-wing extremists, and they try to find also those, and it's in this case it's hard because the lone wolves, they have no organization, no involvement. They do not participate in any activities. They are lone wolves. And the attempt of such agencies is not only to track, but to find in advance such lone wolves, perhaps even not in relevant forum, but in forum that we may not think about it, perhaps in forms of games, in platform of games, as I mentioned, not only platform of online game, but also forums that one can speak in kind of dual use language, that on one hand may be a language of game, but on the other hand may be a language of planning an activity, a terrorist activity. Did it answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tal. I think very well utilized time by my students. Now I would request our first year master's student, Mr. Daksh Sharma, to propose a vote of thanks to Dr. Tal Pavel.
Thank you, Dr. Pavel, and thank you, Nankishore sir, for letting me have this honor of addressing Dr. Pavel. Like I mentioned in my question, I found your presentation very enlightening. It opened a lot of perspectives towards us, and I found especially your presentation on the funding cycles of it, this to be very informative. And of course, the menace of fake news, which is also very rampant in India due to digital literacy problems and manipulation of images, etc. So I found your presentation very informative, as I am sure every one of my colleagues did. I'd like to thank you for taking out the time to address us, to share us, and I hope we can have you again. From the faculty side, I'd like to thank our head of department, Dr. Nankishore, for organizing these talks for us. They've been very enlightening towards us. I see the other faculty members, Anand sir, Monish sir, Ravi sir, Dhanushi ma'am, all of us here. And to the attendees, both within and outside the department attending as guests, thank you for attending this talk. And Dr. Pavel, like I said, I hope we have the opportunity to host you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. It was my true pleasure, honor, and privilege to be here at the Department of Geopolitics and International Relations at the Manipal Academy of Higher Education. Thank you, Dr. Kishore, for the invitation. Thank you, all of you, for the participation. Your very interesting and brilliant questions. It was my pleasure to be here, and it will be my pleasure and honor to cooperate with you in the future, and we can do it, of course. I would like to wish you all the good health and all the bless in your professional and in your private life during your studies here and after, of course. May the bless will always be with you and with all your dearest one. Thank you once again for your time. Thank you once again, Dr. Kishore, for the invitation, and hope to see you all soon here, safe and healthy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We'll have many more interactions. Thanks each one of you. Take care.